Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, DRF TV's new weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Each week on Out of the Gate, our in-studio handicappers will analyze the weekend's best stakes races. Plus, we'll have contributors from the field giving their areas of expertise, whether it's pedigree, whether it's trainer handicapping and trip notes via Formulator, or whether it's wagering strategy. And our in-studio handicappers will conclude each show with their best bet on the Saturday cards. We begin each Out of the Gate show, however, with our in-studio handicappers and their hot topics. Matt Bernier, Mike Beer, you know him from the Race of the Day videos, you know him from the Stakes preview videos. This week's hot topic, most of the week's hot topic leading up to the Kentucky Derby will be the Kentucky Derby. I know some of you like lists. I know some of you don't, but it's a good way to at least foster some sort of debate. So we've each created our top 5 lists for the Kentucky Derby. Mike Beer, you're on the hot seat. Who's number 1?
Number 1 on my list. I think I chickened out a little bit, Dan. I moved Motown, who bombed in his 3-year-old debut a couple weeks ago, and dropped him down to 5. I still have faith in that horse, though. I made one-liner, Todd Pletcher's one-liner, my number 1 3-year-old this year, so far anyway, and we'll see what happens this weekend. I like all 3 of his races, Dan. I'm not sure how far he really wants to go as far as Derby is concerned, but I liked it when they stretched him out in the Southwest. I don't think he lucked into that win in any way, shape, or form. It was a fast race, 102 buyer. The pace was fast. He was close to the fast pace the entire way. I still like the way that he finished it off. I made him number 1.
He really looked good in the Southwest, Matt, but he's bypassing this Saturday's Rebel Stakes. Only one more start before the Kentucky Derby. Does that bother you, and does Todd's overall record in the Kentucky Derby bother you?
I mean, it's one of those things. Obviously, Pletcher usually has a lot of 3-year-olds, so that's going to skew the numbers and make them look a little bit worse than they actually are. As far as one-liner is concerned, I have no knock. All he does is go out there. He's run fast races already, going 2 turns. I agree with Mike. I'm a little bit concerned about how far ultimately he's going to want to go. I would like to have seen him run this week, and I don't understand. If you know that the horse can handle the racetrack, it's $900,000 in the Rebel. Instead, you're going to wait for the Florida Derby or wherever they decide to run him. I suppose I understand you want to get one more prep before it, but at the end of the day, I'd like to see him run.
Now you're going with a proven commodity on the top of your list, Matt. That's Bob Baffert. This weekend will be a big weekend for your number 1, American Anthem. But it's Baffert and the Rebel. Go to the winner's circle.
Well, at a short price probably, though, at the end of the day. American Anthem, I just like what he's done thus far. He's only started twice. He took on a really nice horse in Gormley in the Sham Stakes. I understand it was a wet track and it was only a mile. But the fact that he was down on the inside, it was his first time going 2 turns, and I know Gormley came back and threw in a clunker in the San Felipe, but American Anthem just feels like we don't know how good he ultimately could be. I have him at the top of the list right now. That doesn't mean he's going to be there next week, win, lose, or draw. It just feels like right now, things are so unstable as far as these 3-year-olds are concerned.
Mike, you have a lot of respect for American Anthem. You've got him number 2 on your top 5 list. You're a big fan of his. He's light on experience, but Baffert knows how to get a horse to the Derby, obviously.
Yeah, right. I like everything I've seen from him so far. It's only been a couple of starts, but I like both of them. And he is, at this stage of the game anyway, and I feel like maybe we don't all agree on this necessarily, but he's one of the few 3-year-olds in this crop to this point that I still have some high hopes for. I'm starting to lose faith in most of these horses as time goes on. Nobody has been able to hold my attention. American Anthem, hopefully he holds my attention for at least one more day before he runs tomorrow.
I've been chirping about Epicharis on my blog, drf.com/blogs, pretty much since after his career debut. At the end of the day, he's in the Derby if the connections decide to go there. You could make the argument, boys, that the 2 best 3-year-olds in the country are Mastery and Unique Bella. Mastery, unfortunately, he's not going to the Derby due to injury. Unique Bella is prepping for the Oaks. Matt, you said it perfectly. Instability. There's a lot of things going around. There's a hodgepodge of 3-year-olds. They all have problems. Epicharis, I think, is pretty good. We'll learn how good he is in the UAE Derby.
Yeah, and doesn't it feel like of all years, if you're going to have something bizarre happen, maybe a first-time UAE Derby winner come over here and get the job done, like Mike had alluded to, maybe we disagree a little bit. I still think this is a talented group. It's just none of them can stay together and none of them can reproduce decent efforts. And that's why I think you got to start to consider Gunnevera and Tapwrit and these likes. But Epicharis, all he's done is go out and really strut his stuff and look impressive. Now he's going out to a mile and 3/16 next weekend. He's a major player.
Mike, am I barking up the wrong tree with this horse? You've seen him a couple of times.
No, I think you're on the right track, especially, again, the more that we see of the 3-year-old stateside. I don't know, there's nothing to be that afraid of as we make our way to the first Saturday in May. I like all 4 of Epicaris' races, and I like that he can go long, too, and I like that he's done it from on and off the pace. There's plenty to like about that horse.
Those are our top 5 lists for the Kentucky Derby. We would love to hear your lists. Please tweet at us at DRF Video, hashtag Out of the Gate, hashtag Kentucky Derby. Our lists might change because this Saturday's feature race and Formulator race of the day is the Rebel for 3-year-olds. Saturday's DRF.com Formulator race of the day is the Rebel Stakes at Oaklawn, a 3-year-old Kentucky Derby prep. It's a full field, horses trying to find their way on the road to Churchill Downs. The Formulator race of the day means free Formulator past performances are available on the race of the day event page, and expanded stakes previews already up on the site, video.drf.com. We cover every horse, the A to the Z. Mike Beer, it's Bob Baffert's world at Oaklawn. He has won the Rebel 6 out of the past 7 years. He's sending an American Anthem. He's the 2-to-1 morning line favorite, and in many ways, he's the horse to beat.
Yeah, I guess he is. I don't know that this Rebel came up necessarily such an easy race for him, though. There are a lot of interesting horses in this race, and I think the one thing that American Anthem can prove on Saturday is whether or not he can deal with a really fast-paced route race, because there's a lot of speed in this race, and he does seem like a horse who wants to be at least close to the pace in his races. So we'll see what happens. I do have some high hopes for this horse, though. We talked about him on the Hot Topic segment. I do think there's a chance that he turns out to be a good one for Baffert, but he's got a lot to prove on Saturday.
Matt, to Mike's point, American Anthem might have to deal with a very, very fast pace. At least he showed that he could close sprinting in his debut.
Yeah, that's really the key now. We got to find out if he can do it going 2 turns. Look, the sham, I'm not going to hold that against him. I thought it was a very good race, pressing the pace. But now, like you say, with all this other speed signed on, if he's really going to be considered a Derby threat, I think he's got to be able to show that he can sit just off the pace. In this race, I don't think he has much choice, because if he goes guns blazing, I think he's in trouble. One
of the X factors in this race is from the Todd Pletcher barn. That is Malagacy, who has just destroyed his competition in 2 sprint races at Gulfstream Park. And we know Pletcher's already tasted success at Oaklawn Park this spring. He sent 1 liner in from Gulfstream. That horse won the Southwest. Can this horse deal with A, tougher competition, B, a tougher distance? Matt.
Look, based on what we've seen on the racetrack, he's very, very fast. We know that. The question now becomes ultimately, how far does he want to go? Can he handle this level of competition at longer distances? I'm a little dubious, simply because I find it very odd that he was supposed to debut for a claiming tag, $75,000. They scratched him, and they brought him back in a maiden special weight race. I'm probably making way too much out of that, but that's sticking in the back of my head.
Mike, is it simply a situation, this horse gets away from Gulfstream, Pletcher loses a little bit of his magic touch? It didn't work out that way with 1 liner.
That's true enough. It's something to at least, I think, you want to consider when a horse like this just airs twice in a row at Gulfstream Park. And of course, he's got to stretch out in a way tougher spot. Now, I was impressed with both of his wins. He looked real good winning both times. I'm going to be very surprised if he stretches out and beats this field on Saturday.
Matt, Mike mentioned that there's likely to be a very fast pace in the Rebel. You want a horse coming from the clouds, and you have to think that looking for Lee, he'll be last early.
He may not be good enough to run with these types, but at the end of the day, he's going to get a really nice setup, his second start off the bench, and you're exactly right. He's going to be last, I would imagine, breaking from the far outside. Bring him over to the rail, let everybody go out there and bash each other in the head. Hopefully he can come with a run at the end. Far from the likeliest of winners, but I think at a big number he can at least hit the board.
15-to-1 on the morning line for your top selection looking at Lee. You'd bet him to win at that price. How do you utilize him in exotics?
Well, probably at the end of the day it'll be a small win wager and then use him underneath everything. Look, I have American Anthem as my number 1 on my Derby top 5. I think at the end of the day he has a lot of ability. I'll obviously use him on top and use looking at Lee underneath, but this is a race you can go a number of ways. The other one you got to consider is Petrov as well.
Petrov chased the pace last time out. He might have someone else do the dirty work this time around. Mike, Matt's going with the price. You got the 2-to-1 morning line favorite. How do you make money with American Anthem?
Yeah, I don't know that he's the kind of horse you want to be betting to win at 2-to-1 in this field. I'm just very interested to see how he runs, and I ultimately just couldn't really talk myself into anybody else in this field. I have no knock on Petrov, who I thought ran a perfectly good race last time in the Southwest, but I have some concerns about him as the distances keep getting longer. We'll see what happens with him. He's a nice horse. I'm going to use American Anthem. The horse that I'm going to maybe try and make money with in this race, though, is the number 8, Silver Dust. He's lightly raced. I think he's got a lot of upside. He's got some work to do. I'm not sure that he's ready for these kinds of races right now, and he might be better served with some time off and maybe waiting down the line a little bit. But I think he can run a little bit. He can get a piece of this race.
I have a feeling Malagasy might be pretty good. He's going to have to deal with a hot pace. I think he's going to be chasing it. I hope he doesn't get bet to his morning line. I think 4-1 is too short. I'd bet him at 5-1. I'd use him in exotics with Petrov and American Anthem. I know that at DRF Formulator on Twitter, Michael Hogan's got an opinion on the Rebel, but he also has a horse that he really, really likes on the undercard. Let's go to Hogan's Formulator Hero.
Hi, I'm Mike Hogan, and welcome to Hogan's Formulator Hero. This is a new segment that we'll be doing weekly, taking a look at how I like to use Formulator to find certain horses to bet. The race of the day for Saturday is the Oaklawn Park Rebel Stakes. It's the 10th race at Oaklawn. Go to drf.com, pull up your free PPs, take a look at that. I'm actually going to look at the nightcap, which is the race after the Rebel. It's the 11th at Oaklawn. Maybe we can hook up a nice double there. Let's dive into Formulator. The 11th race is a 1.16 N1X for 4-year-olds and older, and I like number 2, Our Track. Now, he's been made 3-1 favorite on the morning line, but I fully expect that to be higher in the actual wagering because both Big Red Rocket and Leo Frick are 8-1 on the morning line, and they'll be a lot lower. So I'm hoping Our Track gets a little dismissed. He's took a little while to break his maiden. He finally did so in a very good race at Keeneland back in October. That race has come back strong with 3 next out winners, as you can see here from Formulator, including Leo Frick, who he beat handily and is facing again on Saturday. The other thing I like about Our Track is in his next start at Churchill Downs in November, he was facing winners for the first time. This is another race where, as you can see from my note, he was 3 wide on the first turn, 6 wide on the second turn. It was a much better effort than it looked. And that's another race that came back quite strong. The winner came back to repeat in an optional claimer. There was 2 other winners, and that winner who came back was favored in the start after in the Grade 3 mine shaft. So it was a quality field. It's a much better field than what Our Track is facing on Saturday. And he's coming off a little bit of a layoff for Phil Simms. He's working well off the layoff. And let's look at Simms' numbers over the past 5 years. If you click on Simms, it brings up the trainer stats. Go into dirt, under ranges, we'll change it to routes, and we'll look at all of his runners coming off of a layoff of 45 days or more. You'll see Simms has actually done quite well. 12 for 45, 27% win rate, 58% in the money, and a gaudy 359 ROI because he's had winners at 29-1, at 10-1. He's had ones that ran well and finished second at nice prices. There's no reason for me to think that Our Track isn't ready to run at least as good an effort as what he showed in his previous starts, and perhaps a career best effort against a field that he may just be better than at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. All right, and that was the inaugural segment of Hogan's Formulator Hero. Hopefully we found a horse that will be live on Saturday at Oaklawn, and best of luck if you're playing the races. And we'll be back to Out of the Gate after these messages.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Saturday's feature race at Gulfstream Park is the Grade 2 Inside Information Stakes for fillies and mares going 7 furlongs. We bring in our in-studio handicappers, MB and MB, and in this race, Curlin's Approval is going to be the big favorite. Matt, what's the knock?
There really isn't one. She goes out and runs, but there's just something nagging at me that says I don't believe in her. I don't think she's any superstar. The turn back, okay, obviously that should work to her advantage. I just look at the way this race sets up on paper. I think there's a lot of speed in here. she's shown that she can sit, but at a short price, I don't want no part of her.
Mike, she should be able to work out a decent trip from this outside post. I know you like her at this slightly shorter distance than the two-turn route, although she did win by open lengths last time out. But what's the knock?
Yeah, she didn't beat a good field last time. She got it done around 2 turns, but I still don't think that's her game. She'll like the turn back to 7/8 here. I think it works for her. I just don't see what's so great about her, Dan. Her races are fine. There's nothing to be so terrified of at 3 to 5 on the morning line. I'm not even sure that I think she's the horse to beat in this race when you start talking about Dearest, who might be every bit as good as she is, and who also has speed in this race. I don't want any part of her as an odds-on favorite, Dan.
So you guys are going to be chasing prices and the inside information. Matt, let's go with you. You're picking a horse that's broken my heart, especially last time out.
Yeah, on paper, she's not good enough to win, but Distinta, I think the way this race sets up on paper, if the pace shapes up the way I hope it does, she's one that I know is going to come from off the pace. Johnny V's got the mount. She's not going to look very visually appealing out there on the racetrack because she's probably going to be all out for 3/8 or a half mile. But I think the 7/8 works for her. If they go crazy up front, I think she can take advantage.
She is in career best form last time out. She just couldn't reel in that sharp gate to wire winner. But as Matt mentioned, Mike, she's going to get some pace. The only thing that bothers me is those 7 runner-up finishes lifetime. She just seems to find one better.
Yeah, she is one of those horses who's had her chances. This race will set up well for her, but she's already had her chances. We'll see if she can get over the hump here. If everything breaks her way, maybe she can do it. I went in a totally different direction and took Mia Tori, a lightly raced 4-year-old. She's run nothing but good races so far. I think she's improving at the right time with her new trainer. She is 2 for 2, and I just like sort of the fact that her last 2 races, the best that she's run. She has speed to be forward, but she doesn't need the lead. I think she can get the right trip in this race, Dan.
Mia Tori, a Jorge Navarro specialty. Throw them out at your own risk, Matt.
Yeah, look, I think she's very good. Ever since Navarro's gotten her, she's improved. My only concern with her, and the reason that I didn't use her on top, I'm afraid about the 7/8. I feel like at 6 furlongs, that's really her bread and butter. We start pushing it, I'm a little nervous.
Dearest, we got to talk about her. We haven't seen her in a couple of months, and Matt, that's kind of been the story of her career. She runs a big race, then she goes away. It's hard to keep her sound.
Yeah, and that's obviously a disappointment because she goes out and all she does is run really nice races. Her connections do very well down in South Florida, particularly off the layoff. So I guess if you like her, that's a positive, but I'm with you. I'd like to see some more consistency as far as running.
Mike, how are you making money in this race? Simple situation, you're betting Mia Tori to win?
Yeah, I'm just going to bet her to win in this race if she's the right kind of a price. And I'm happy to be against Curlin's approval, win or lose. If she's an odds-on favorite, I'm happy to be against her. Mia Tori and Dearest for me.
Distinta for you, Matt. You're going to get a price.
Yeah, play her on top, play her to win, and also play her underneath. If Curlin's approval can get it done, I know the exacta still pays.
I'm a chalk-eating weasel. I just think Curlin's approval gets through this. I like her more than these two do. I don't like the price she's going to be on Saturday. We're going to get some prices, however, with some of our contributors. Nicole Russo takes a deep dive into the pedigrees of some of the major Rebel Stakes contenders, and Jonathan Kinchin, he's always looking for value. Let's go to those segments.
Hi guys, I'm Nicole Russo coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, and in this segment every week I'll be bringing you some pedigree handicapping notes. If you're looking at horses as individuals, pedigree is just one set of clues you can use to help you determine how a horse is going to do stretching out, trying turf for the first time, in the slop, all of those things that might give you little prices or different handicapping angles to play around with. And of course, at this time of year, we're looking heavily at the Kentucky Derby Trail with the distances starting to get longer in these preps and that 1.25 mile question looming. So pedigree, just one set of clues you can use as you're evaluating these Derby hopefuls at this time of year. And this year, kind of adding fuel to that fire, we've got a really interesting group of freshman sires with their first 2-year-olds last year, 3-year-olds this year. American Anthem, who's going in this Saturday's Rebel Stakes at Oaklawn, is by Bodemeister, who had both brilliance, earning triple-digit buyers in 4 of his 6 starts, and the ability to carry at a distance, winning the Arkansas Derby and a game runner-up in both the Derby and Preakness. So he's got an interesting mix of qualities, and he seems to have really passed some of that talent onto his offspring. So Bodemeister bringing a lot to the table, and considering that he was unraced as a 2-year-old himself, his foals have the opportunity to get better moving forward. American Anthem was born in May, debuted in December, really sort of fits that mold. Let's take a look at him here in his 2-turn debut when he was a very game second to the well-regarded Gormley in the Sham Stakes. His first try going long and, really moving forward into the Rebel. He's got the female family underneath to back him up. He's from the immediate family of champion Banshee Breeze, who won so many good route events for fillies and mares during her racing career. So really American Anthem, kind of has a good pedigree moving forward here. But joining him on that flight to Oaklawn from California was Robert Lewis winner Royal Mo. And if his odds drift up a little with all the hype being thrown American Anthem's way, take a long look, because I think he's got one of the better two-turn pedigrees on this Triple Crown trail. He's by the phenomenal young sire Uncle Mo, who of course had last year's Derby winner with Nyquist. A lot of turf in his female family, but also a lot of distance capability. His second dam, the long-winded and hard-knocking Irish Linnet, really a good name there. We've got another freshman sire represented in Shackelford, who's got Malegacy trying 2 turns for the first time. I'd like to see more stamina on the bottom side of his family to balance out Shackelford. The farthest one of this horse's siblings ever won at was 1 mile 70 yards. I think he's got a lot of talent, but I'll pass in this spot. Silver Dust in here. He's by Tappet, out of a stakes winner from the family of Grade 1 winners, Stop Traffic, Cross Traffic. A lot of class there, probably some stamina. If you're looking for a price to use under the 2 favorites in the exotics, I wouldn't look past him. Thanks for joining us this week. I'll be back next week to give you more pedigree angles. Until then, you can find coverage like this by following us at live.drf.com/breeding. Now let's take it over to Jonathan for Kinchin's Corner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Kinchin's Corner. This week, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Pick 5 sequence at Oaklawn Park for Rebel Day. Invite you into my mind a little bit. If you listen to the Players podcast, we talk a little bit about crushing their souls. And this is the Pick 5 ticket that's a little bit of an example of that. It's not really a spread I'm not spreading very much. I'm going to do it right inside a ticket maker. It's a pretty direct hit here. We're going to start in race 7, the Azeri. I think it's a pretty straightforward situation here. When you look at the pace projector on Timeform US and you see a horse loose on the lead that in your opinion is better than the rest of them, it's kind of an easy single for me. And so in race 7, I'm going to use 1 A horse, no B's, no C's. I'm going to use Terra Pro Mesa alone in that spot, loose on the lead with a class edge on the rest of them. I'm going to do the same thing in race 8. I'm going to use another single, Ice Cold, More Spirit for Bob Baffert. We'll talk a little bit later about Bob Baffert's record in the Rebel. But him shipping a horse to Oaklawn is something that everyone should pay attention to. More Spirit's race last time in San Antonio was really impressive. He got nailed at the wire by his stablemate Opportunity, who is a classy horse in his own right. I just think More Spirit's better than these. There's some nice horses in here that might do some nice things for the rest of the year. But for me, I'm going to stick with Bob, More Spirit, and Mike Smith. In the 9th, I don't really have an opinion here. This is one of those situations where I'm going to just kind of close my eyes and hope my value is going to be placed in the fact that I'm taking strong opinions elsewhere. I'm going to use Ray's Warrior, the 2, as an A horse, the 6, One Fine Dream, the 7, Masoma is an A horse, the 8, Will Munnings, and the 9, Luna de Loco. Obviously, I'm using 5 A horses, no B horses, no real opinion there. The tough race, I'm going to just kind of cross my fingers and hope to get out of that one. And then on to the Rebel, the highlight of the day, the highlight of Oaklawn's meet to this point, leading up into the Arkansas Derby. I'm going to use American Anthem and Malegacy. Malegacy is my A horses. And if you take a look at this tape from the Sham, you're going to notice that we talked about this on the Players podcast not too long ago. Being on the outside is a huge advantage in a 2-horse duel of this situation. And American Anthem is a young horse, and I was so impressed by the way he battles back as they approach the stretch here. And off of that effort, I know that Baffert's got this horse going in the right direction. Apparently the horse has been working well. The fight he shows here in the lane is something that has caught my attention. I don't have any problem thinking that American Anthem is going to improve off of this effort. Gormley's lackluster performance in his race doesn't really dissuade me too much. Malegacy, obviously, you have to respect Todd Fletcher. Not much need to explain there. I'm going to use Petrov and Looking at Lee as a B. If you take a look at the Southwest here, you'll notice that Looking at Lee comes flashing into the picture. He was one of the ones that caught my eye making a move. I liked him last time. He was coming in off of a break. I would expect him to do a little bit better here. Feels like there's a little bit more speed signed on here with American Anthem, Malegacy, as well as Uncontested coming back. I feel like this thing could fall apart, and I want to definitely have it if that's the case with Looking at Lee. I respect Untrapped's effort as an improving horse down at Fairgrounds. And then Silver Dust is a little bit of a long shot play just to kind of get it together here. And then in the final race, in race 11, I'm going to use Dan the Go Man and Big Red Rocket as A horses. Big Red Rocket with the ex-Baffert angle. Just kidding, that's not a real angle. But Dan the Go Man, if you look at Time Form US, and this is one of the things we've been talking about on the podcast a little bit. And you look at his race 2 back, he was closing into blue fractions, kind of a slower pace. And that's definitely something I'll forgive him for here. I think Dan the go-to man is a quality horse. I've been calling him that since he broke his maiden at Keeneland. So here's my ticket all laid out for you. I'm not going to use any 2Bs. I'm going to go a $2.50 all A ticket. I'm going to go $1 A's with 1B and then $1 A's with a C for a total wager of $100. If your pockets are a little bit deeper, you can double that up a little bit. And good luck. We'll see you next week.
Thanks to Nicole and Jonathan for their outstanding analysis. We've got one more major stakes preview to discuss here on Out of the Gate before I unleash our in-studio handicappers with their best bets on Saturday. Let's bring the boys in for the Grade 1 Santa Margarita out at Santa Anita. 2 major names in here, the red-hot Vale Dory, Finest City. But Matt, they're both trying 1 mile and 1/8, and I know you're a little bit dubious about their ability to stay the distance.
Talent-wise, I think Finest City is the best horse in the race. I don't know on dirt if 1 mile and 1/8 is really her friend. I think she's better at those sort of middle distances. As far as Vale Dory is concerned, she's good, but she's had basically everything her own way in all of these grade 2s that she's ripped off. I don't want either one of them.
Is this a match race, Mike? At the end of the day, the fans are going to bet it that way. Matt's looking for somewhere else. Are these 2 favorites vulnerable?
I think they're both at least a little bit vulnerable. I don't know if I would, just call it a match race necessarily. I agree with Matt. I think if you just told me I had to take one of the 2 favorites in here, just give me Finest City 9 furlongs tonight. I just think she's the best horse in the race. I'm a little concerned about 9 furlongs for her. I think she's a better horse than Vale Dory is, though.
Mike, top pick, how do you make money on this race?
Well, I'm going to try and make money because I like a horse who's going to be a big price in this race, apparently. They made Lady Tappet the number 5, 20 to 1 on the morning line. I've been a fan of her since the very beginning. Obviously, things didn't go well for her as a 3-year-old. She missed a ton of time and never made the Kentucky Oaks, but I thought she had a ton of potential. It's like she's come back. It's been another layoff. She came back. She got a couple of starts in. I thought she ran okay. Another layoff since then. I liked her first start back from this most recent layoff. I thought she ran well that day. They tried the grade 2 last time. She couldn't get involved, but she's caught wet tracks in both of her starts, Dan. Fast track, 1 mile and 1/8, a race that is supposed to have plenty of pace for her to run at in this spot. I'm taking a shot.
Matt, you're also taking a shot in here. No favorites for you. You're going with Art Sherman.
Yeah, Show Stealer. She tried so hard most recently in that Santa Maria. Now she gets an extra 16th of a mile. And the biggest thing that has gone against her in each of these past 2, no one has been able to go on early with Vale Dory. Today should be an entirely different story with Finest City, with Perfect Pick out there. I think they go crazy out front. This filly wants every bit of the 9 furlongs. Give me Show Stealer.
I'm hoping, Matt, you're wrong about your pace scenario because I'm hoping Finest City can sit just a little bit. I think Vale Dory's going to the front. I think Perfect Pick's going to pressure. But at the end of the day, I think that if Finest City can sit off, I agree with both of you. I think she's slightly more talented than Vale Dory, and drawing outside of Vale Dory might give her a pretty big advantage. I'm hoping she gets the jump and is able to stay 1 mile and 1/8 based on class alone. They're both pretty good. I'll pick her to win. I'm not sure how I'm going to make money in this race because I think it's as simple as Finest City over Vale Dory. Now it's time for our best bets segment. I'm going to unleash the guys with their top plays on the Saturday card. Matt Bernier, you go first.
Gulfstream's 12th. We already talked about the inside information. The race following it, not as sexy. Claiming 16,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime. Nick Zito on the rail. The 1, fried bologna, 8 to 1 morning line. Faced many of these common foes most recently. Made a bit of a premature move. Flattened out down the lane. I think he gets a better trip this time around. Gets the job done.
Fried bologna for Matt Bernier at Gulfstream Park. What bologna are you going to give the folks, Mike?
Plenty of it, I think. At Aqueduct race number 6, the number 5 is 2 Charlie, his horse who turned back last time in a similar spot to the one that he'll be running back in on Saturday. Got off to a terrible start in that race, lost all chance, made a big long run all through the race, kept gaining at the end, couldn't get up behind a wire-to-wire winner. If he gets out of the gate this time, I think he turns the tables on some of these horses. He's 7-2 on the morning line. I think that's a very fair price.
My best bet is in race number 8 at Aqueduct, the Correction Stakes, and my goal here is to try to take a stand against 2 horses that are likely going to take a lot of money. Clothes Fall Off might be the favorite in this race, and she ran really well last time out in the Barbara Fritchie. She's getting a class drop, and she should get pace to attack, but I thought she should have run better in the Fritchie, considering her pace. She sat off a 3-ply speed duel while racing on the best part of the racetrack, and just seemed a little bit flat. She won this race last year, but I wonder if she's really gotten back to her best form. Hot Hot City Girl also likely to take a lot of money. I'm not sure this New York bred is back to her best form. She won last time out against fellow state breds, but she did it in rather slow time, and she's going to have to deal with the speed of Disco Chick in this race. I'm going to take a chance with the number 4 Ultimate Holiday, who is 10-1 on the morning line. And I just have a feeling that Michelle Nevin, her new trainer, has gotten to the bottom of Ultimate Holiday, who had forgettable form with Richard Baltus out in Southern California. You could make the argument that Ultimate Holiday's last 2 races, her only 2 races for Nevin, are her 2 best races. Now, last time out, she might have been on the best part of the track. She certainly got away with an easy pace, but she ran in the stretch, and I think she's tactical enough where she can sit off Disco Chick, she can sit off Hot City Girl. She's going to be a big price, and maybe she gets the jump on a slightly off form, Clothes Fall Off. I'll bet Ultimate Holiday at around the 10-1 morning line, and I'll also use her in exotics with Clothes Fall Off and Disco Chick. That wraps up this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Thanks so much to you for tuning in. Thanks so much to our in-studio handicappers, our contributors, and we wish you the best of luck this week when the horses break out of the gate.